Hey everyone, welcome to week 4 of camp. We're over halfway done, which is super exciting. I hope all of your classes are going well so far and that you're still getting to enjoy your summer in the evenings and doing some fun activities. So we're going to do something a little bit more fun today, and it's going to involve a story. You're going to be watching a video. I'm going to follow along with you, and then after we're going to fill out this page, which I want you to get out of your resource bag. It says, "If I ran for president." So everyone should have this in their bag. And if you don't, you can just draw it on a piece of paper. Go back and pause, take a look at that, and you can draw it on your own if you don't have your resources for this week. So just to review, last week we talked about main idea and then details. So our main idea was the big concept, whether it was in the paragraph or it was the whole story. We were looking at the big idea and what our story is mostly about. And then details were smaller pieces of information that just help us to understand the story a little bit more. So, for example, when we were learning about whales and we're talking about how they're intelligent, that was the main idea of that paragraph. But then one of the details would be how whales stay in groups or something they do that shows they're intelligent. So the details are kind of proving that information to be true. And when we complete this, we're kind of doing something similar where we're looking for the big idea of running for president, and then the details, it's asking us to write important facts about how a person runs for president. So those are the details or the process that describes running for president. So keep in mind what we talked about last week, the skills we covered, because we're going to be using that today. So to get started, we are going to talk about a little bit before we get started, what goes into being the president and who can run for president, what you have to do. So my first question that I want you to answer out loud, which you'll do for all of these, just say your answer. Who is the president right now? I want everyone to say an answer out loud for me. You may have seen him on the news lately. Donald Trump is our president right now, President Donald Trump. Second question I want you to answer for me. Can you name any presidents out loud? Any other ones that we've had in the United States? Okay, so if you don't have any in mind, our first president was George Washington, and then another one that you may have been hearing about a lot is Abraham Lincoln, because he played a really big part in freeing the slaves and ending slavery. And then another one right before Donald Trump, Barack Obama. So those are several presidents that you may have heard of and not remembered. Third question is, who can run for president? This is kind of a tricky one. There's a couple answers. Who can run for president? If you have a guess, just say it out loud. Okay, so you may not have known these. I didn't learn these until I think 4th or 5th grade. But if you want to run for president, so if you're thinking about possibly being the president of our country in the future, the requirements you have to meet are you have to be a U.S. citizen, which means that you have to be born in the United States. So that's the first one. Second one, you have to be 35 years old or older. So before you can even run for president, you have to be 35. And third thing, you have to have been living in the United States for 14 years. So you could be a citizen of the United States and then move to another country. And until you come back and live in the United States for 14 years, you can't run for president. So those are the 3 requirements you have to meet. Keep in mind if you want to run for president in the future. So now that we know the requirements, say you run for president, you get the job, the people elect you. What are your jobs? We know the president is in charge, but what do they do? Tell me out loud if you have any guesses, or just think about it. So what the president does is they don't just have one role and they're not just overseeing everything. we have a system where we have 3 branches of government, and the president is part of the executive branch. So it's just kind of a system. It's called checks and balances, where you're checking on each branch, making sure laws are passed when they should be, because we have one branch that creates the laws. The president can look at the laws before they're passed. So he's kind of working together with a bunch of people as a team. And we'll learn more about it in the story that we're going to listen to today. But the job is not as simple as it looks, and there's many different things that go into it. It's not just one responsibility. So last question before we get started is, how does an election work? Or how do you run for president? Give me some guesses on that one. Okay, so you may have some things in mind. We're gonna watch a video that it's a story, and it's gonna talk about running for president. So you don't have to be filling this out while we're watching it. We're gonna do it after, but if anything comes to mind and you wanna write down some notes on here, you can. We're filling it in with important facts about how a person runs for president. So just keep that in mind as we're watching our video.
Welcome to Storyline Online, brought to you by the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. I'm Lonnie Chavis.
I'm Mackenzie Hansack. And I'm Parker Bates. And today we're going to read If I Ran for President, written by Catherine Steyer and illustrated by Lan Abel-Kravis.
It will be great to run for president of the United States. If I ran for president, I'd hope the people of the United States would choose me for a very important job, the job of leading our country. And I'd hope to follow in the footsteps of past presidents, such as George Washington, our first president, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. I'd have to think carefully about my decision to run for president. I want to know how my family felt about it too. Then I'd ask myself, am I the best person for the job? Am I ready to work very, very, very hard for my country? Do lots of people believe in me? And will they help me run for office? If I could answer yes to all those questions, then I'd declare my candidacy. That means I'd announce I was interested in the job of President of the United States. If I ran for president, I'd run a campaign to let voters learn all about me. People who thought I would be a good president would donate money or time to help. I'd hire people to work on my campaign too. Campaigns can make a candidate famous. Soon my name or face would appear on signs, buttons, bumper stickers, and t-shirts. I'd even star in television commercials.
If I ran for president, I'd work with my political party. That's a group of people who share the same beliefs about how the country should be governed. They support candidates who uphold these ideas. The 2 major parties are the Democratic Party, their symbol is a donkey, and the Republican Party, their symbol is an elephant. There are other parties too, called third parties. But people besides me would want to be president. Republican and Democratic parties must choose whom they support in the election. In some states, like Iowa, the parties each hold meetings called caucuses that sometimes sounds like caucuses, where members pick their favorite candidate. In most states, party members hold an election called a primary. Caucuses and primaries show which candidates are popular with voters and who might have the best chance of being elected president. The first primary is held in New Hampshire in the winter before the presidential election. I'd be sure to visit there, but I'd have to bundle up. In the summer before the election, the political parties announce their candidate for president. The major parties make this announcement at meetings called conventions.
Okay, so far we've heard a couple different things about running for president. So I want you to share a few things right now about what you do when you run for president. So we got a few things that we could discuss. Now, some that I thought of would be, you have to announce that you're running for president so that everyone knows. That's one thing you have to do. You can start a campaign, you can show ads, visit different states. So those are a few things that we can keep in mind as we continue to watch.
It sends delegates to the convention. Delegates vote for the candidate who was most popular in their state. A convention looks like a big celebration full of cheering and chanting, balloons and confetti. Millions of Americans watch the excitement on TV. By the time of the convention, everyone usually knows which candidate will be chosen, but the delegates still hold a vote. If my party chose me to run for president, I'd make a speech to get everyone excited about helping me win. I tell the American people about my platform, my plans, and ideas for our country. My running mate would make a speech too. That's the person who would be my vice president if I became president. If I ran for president, I'd be invited to debate with other presidential candidates. A person called a moderator would ask us questions. People across the country would listen carefully to our answers. Reporters would ask me questions too, about my life, my family, even my kid in Sassy. They'd print old photographs of me in newspapers and magazines, like the snapshot of me in my superhero costume, or my baby picture when I still wore diapers. If I ran for president, I would travel the country to meet lots of people. I'd have my own campaign bus or airplane to take me from place to place. Inside, there'd be comfy seats, perfect for checking out the news, writing speeches, and thinking about how to solve the nation's problems. I'd take naps too. I need the extra rest. I'd work hard and be very busy. All in 1 week, I might share cereal with kindergartners in California, crunch corn with farmers in Kansas, and have dinner in Delaware, where I'd order the Blue Plate special with an apple pie and a large strawberry milkshake. After all that food, I might not feel too well. Still, I'd have to smile and talk with the people I met. Presidential candidates make lots of speeches, shake hands, and cuddle babies.
Finally, in November, Election Day would arrive. If I ran for president, I'd be nervous and excited. On Election Day, millions of voters from across the country go to their polling places to cast their ballots. That's another way to say that they vote. In our country, people vote in private. No one but you knows how you voted. But I know I choose my favorite candidate, me. Once the voting is finished, officials count up the ballots. Then comes the announcement on television, radio, in the newspapers, and on the internet. People everywhere find out who will be the next president of the United States. I'd stay up late and keep my fingers crossed.
If I ran for president and lost, the people who worked so hard on my campaign would be disappointed. I'd be disappointed too. Still, I would be proud that I've taken part in a free and fair election. I'd make a telephone call to offer my best wishes and my support to the winner, our next president. But if I won, wow! On January 20th, I say the words of the oath of office and be sworn in as president. On that day, my inauguration day, there'd be a parade and a fancy ball. Then I'd move into the White House in Washington, D.C. to begin my 4-year term as president of the United States of America. And what would I do when I became president? Well, that's another story.
The end.
I learned a lot from this book. It's not just about running for president, it's also about being a good citizen and voting.
Yeah, I can't wait to turn 18 when I get to vote. I'm gonna register to vote when I'm 17, so I'm ready to go. It's up to us to elect people who represent us the best.
Yeah, voting is super important. I go with my mom to the polls when she votes. It's a lot of fun too. And as kids, we have to remember, we have a voice too. Even though we can't vote yet, we can still use our voice to make change.
That's true. Hey, thank you for watching Storyline Online.
Make sure.
Alrighty. I hope you enjoyed that story. I liked it a lot because I know I learned some new things in there that I didn't know before. I'm sure you did too. You may not know much about the election, but they did tell us in there that the election happens in November, and it just so happens to be happening this year in 2020. So I thought this was a good story to introduce you to what the election's all about and what's going to be happening when we're trying to elect a president. So we talked about a few things in the middle of the video when I paused it. Some things that happen when someone runs for president. So a couple that I wrote down, which you didn't have to write them down yet, but you can start writing now. First one I said was announce that you are interested in running for president. So if you skip that step, no one's going to know that you're going to be running a campaign or that you're even trying to run for president. So first you want to announce that you are running for president or interested in running, which there's my answer for that one. And you can pause that if you need to copy it. Second one I said was start a campaign and show ads on TV. So you can shorten these too. You don't have to write all of it. I just want you discussing it with me and saying them out loud. So when you start your campaign, that also includes when you're going around to different states to talk to people and people that are going to be voting. But you can show ads on TV, which is something that you'll definitely be seeing on TV coming up when we have President Trump as our Republican candidate and Joe Biden as the Democratic candidate. They're going to be showing ads on TV, trying to get people to choose them for president. So you're showing these ads. We are currently in the process of the primary election. Pennsylvania had theirs in, well, it was supposed to be in April, but it got moved to June because of coronavirus. So you have to run in a primary election first. And for example, our primary election, we had Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. So you had to choose, here's my answer. You had to choose which candidate you want to run for your party. It's another thing you have to do. And then after, say you win the primary election, you're chosen as the candidate for either the Democratic or Republican Party. Do you remember what you had to do next? Or something that you could do next? So you can make a speech about your plans for the country. You want to tell people why you want to run for president, what you could do to change the country, and just so they know all of your ideas and what you want to do. And then we have the president lives in the White House, but who also lives in the White House with the president? His family or her family, if we had a female president. And then who else does he choose to run with him in the election? And say that out loud if you have a guess. So he chooses a vice president. And that's what I put for my last fact about how someone runs for president. You select a vice president and then you travel to different states to talk to voters. So here is my answer for that one. And there were several other things that were mentioned too. Say you win the election, then you take the oath of office in January and you would be sworn in as the president. And after that, you just take on even more jobs than what you were already doing when you're running for president. So what I want you to do, we filled out this chart. It's okay if you couldn't do it on your own. That's completely fine. I just wanted you to follow along with me and pick out details. I want you to give me one more thing that was mentioned in the video, a detail or a fact about how you run for president. And I want you to answer that for me in the comments. So you can look at these to help you. Go back and watch my video so you can see the story again, but you're looking for another fact about how a person runs for president. And that can also include what they do after they're elected president, the steps that they have to take after that to be sworn in as our president. So that's your question for the comments. I hope you enjoyed my lesson. Thank you for following along. I also hope you liked the story. And if you have any questions, you can leave those in the comments as well. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you next week.